In any family, each child is born into a different family. For example, a family might start with 2 people and settle into their life together as a couple, and then a child is born and things change. Then the family incorporates that change and shifts into a family with 2 parents and 1 child. Boom! Then another child might come along. Whatever the family state, each time a child is born, the family dynamic shifts because of the addition of a new child. A similar thing happens when children grow up and leave the house. That also shifts the family dynamic. In my case, I grew up in a very different family environment than my siblings did. My siblings are all significantly older than me, a gap of 5 to 11 years. From a family wealth perspective, I don't remember a time when our family ever struggled financially. My father was already quite successful by the time I arrived. He had improved his socio-economic status significantly. We lived in a nice house, and as the youngest, and especially as the youngest after a long gap, I enjoyed many of the additional privileges associated with being the youngest. Growing up, our family never lacked for anything, which led me to have a different perspective on life than my siblings. I think it's important to understand that even within one family, depending on the span of years between the oldest and the youngest, each member can have a very different perspective on life and on their role within the family. Because of this age gap, when I was a teenager, my siblings were already leaving home and getting married. In our family, and more broadly in the Orthodox Jewish community in which we live, children generally live at home until they marry. I felt like an only child in the family for nearly 10 years between the time my sister married and when I married and moved out. All of those things meant that I felt that my position in the family was different from that of everyone else. As a child, I was very docile. I was sheltered, naive, and just went along with everything. I went with the flow for a long time, and things just kept happening in life and in business. I didn't really stop to reflect on them or understand them until much, much later. I was a late bloomer, and only started to think about my position in the family as I met with other families and learnt more about their situations and what we had in common. Family history. My late father survived great adversity. He survived the Holocaust. He came from a large and prominent family in Sosnowiec, a small town in Poland near Krakow. His parents ran a successful family business and were active in their community, helping others less fortunate. With the onset of the war, the eldest in the family was sent to a labor camp and never heard from again, and a ghetto was established in Sosnowiec. The families were able to remain there for some years until the decision was finally made by the Nazis to liquidate it. My father remained in the ghetto as part of the cleanup, and the rest of the family was sent on a train to the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. The women and younger children were selected for immediate death, and my father and his brother became slave laborers for IG Farben, the large German industrial conglomerate. After a time, the 2 sons were united with their father and remained in Auschwitz until the infamous death march in January 1945. The camp was evacuated and thousands of prisoners were forced to march for weeks through the bitter cold, many dying of starvation and exposure, or shot for the crime of not marching in step. They ended up in the Buchenwald concentration camp. By this time, my father had contracted typhus and was severely ill. He was colloquially called a Mussulman, someone waiting to die. He and his brother were liberated on April 11, 1945 by the US Army and were the sole survivors of our family. Their father was shot by the Nazis just weeks earlier.